All right, our next reader is Laura Young. Come on up, Laura. Yay.
Hi, I'm Laura. Ooh, I'm learning a lot. I can't figure this out. Okay, here we go. I'm definitely going to be burning all of my Asimov books. Just FYI, you're going to go where the Cosby Show DVDs are. All right, so I'm reading from a longer work called The Butcher. All right, here we go. Lady May watched her mother, the butcher, ready herself for her patients as she had done nearly every morning since her daughter could remember. Each day, with the exception of Sunday, was the same. The two of them rose with the sun and readied the fire, gathered the eggs, and fed the horses. After their morning chores were done, her mother set off towards the depot. Lady May watched her walk down the crescent road and saw the way the others gave way and lowered their heads to the ground. And as her mother disappeared from view, she whispered, "Come back, and I'm scared, and careful, Mama," hoping the words would float like ash after her. If enough of them did, they might shroud her mother from what awaited her at the depot and spare her from the deputies. Maybe someday her words would blanket the settlement itself, snuffing out those who wished Lady May and her mother ill. Her mother slid the petticoat over her stockings, hooked it to her corset, and then reached for her dress, which was not a dress at all, but a jacket and skirt attached to one another with a hidden band of buttons. Her mother was beautiful, a strong nose, full lips, high cheekbones. It was a beauty many longed for. The residents found themselves drawn to her even as she repulsed them, made them oblige even as they fought against her. Her appearance gave her unearned authority, and before she finished reading the statement from the deputies, her patients immediately felt they deserved the atonements they were at the depot to receive. Lady May had inherited her mother's cheekbones just as she would inherit the role of butcher when she turned 18, but she tried not to think much about how either one might shape her life as they would. When Lady May approached her mother, she took the folds of the skirt in one hand and reached for the buttons with the other. The fabric was thick and rough, for even though her mother was the butcher, they did not have many means and had to spend the allowance allocated by the deputies with as much care as anyone else. As she was struggling with one of the buttons, her hand slipped and tugged her mother's skirt down. It folded over at the waist, drooping, its pocket turned upside down, and Lady May saw something fall to the floor. She bent to pick it up. From where she stood, it looked like a thimble, but when she put it between her fingers, it was smooth and hard. Since it was dim in her mother's room with the curtains drawn, she brought it too close to her face. At first, she thought it was a dry piece of cheese from one of the traps, but as her eyes adjusted, she realized that she was holding, in the palm of her hand, a tip of a finger, its nails still on. Her breath caught and her stomach turned, and she dropped it back on the rug. It bounced and landed next to her mother's foot. "Hurry now, Lady May, I'm going to be late," her mother said, and twisted around to look at her daughter. She saw her staring down and followed her gaze to the small piece of flesh on the floor. She said, and bent down to pick it up, putting it back in her pocket as though she had just dropped a handkerchief or her reading glasses. "It's all right, Lady May," her mother said. "Nothing to worry about." "But why is it in your pocket?" "I always keep the remnants for a little while. Not long, just a day or two, just in case." "In case of what?" Lady May asked. "In case they want them back. Some do. Not that they're of any use anymore, just that some residents want to go in the ground with all them parts is all." "That happens?" "As often as not. Some tell me first, before we begin, but over time I've come to realize ain't everyone thinking straight when they come to see me. Some don't think of wanting what they lost until they're done and gone. So I hold on to them," she said, and patted her pocket. Lady May looked down at her own fingers, which held the black buttons on her mother's skirt, and wondered how many layers of skin and muscle and bone there were. Was her mother quick with the saw? Would Lady May's own fingers be warm and sticky where the skin pulled back, the phalanges jagged and sharp? What if the blood wouldn't still and it flowed out of her until she was as dry as the earth? She felt a tightness in her jaw and the bubbling of spit in the back of her throat, but not wanting her mother to notice, she swallowed the bile back down and quickly resumed fastening the buttons. Thank you.